Hi guys, how's everything going? Nice to see everybody back, and we have a show chock full of surprises, so to speak, for you. Keith
Do
and
we?
Marcus, how's everything going on your end?
Well, on my end, I think everything is okay. But if I'm looking at Keith, he seems to be frozen. I know that he had already problems, and as it seems now, he's restarting the systems. We hope to have him. Ah, there he is again.
Yeah,
Can you
hopefully.
say something, Keith? How are you?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, there you are. Great. So the question, as usual, how was your week? Starting with Keith.
Oh, well, Friday about 6:30, I was busy starting to write a story, and because I'm on my blog on Fridays, I'm publishing a serial and little novelette I'm writing, and I'm not a fiction writer. I don't know if I'm good or bad, and if I cared about that, I wouldn't do it. But anyway, I'm explaining this because, I'm in a muse, right? So I'm all like writing this story, and I hear my wife moaning, and she can't breathe, and I have to take her to the hospital.
Oh,
And so we wind up staying there till 2 in the morning. So she has symptoms, but she's having a heart. So that's good that it wasn't a heart related thing, but it kind of, you know, was one of those things that kind of mix you up. So, but
yeah.
things,
Hope she's
are
doing better.
I came
Yes,
back, we got back home, I finished my story, published it, and worked on the slides, and here I am. So it's all good.
but and she's doing better.
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's good. Yeah. Amos, I hope it was not that dramatic on your side this week.
Luckily not. I've been just immersed in this violence in the Middle East, which took kind of a heavy emotional toll on me. But things seem to be a little calmer now. I hope they continue in a positive direction. I think a lot to
Yeah.
cover on that. What about the slide, Marcus?
The
I'm
card?
surprised.
Well, I was sitting there yesterday and I think, oh, damn it. I was sitting there for hours and I could not make up my mind, what to talk about. There's only one topic today. We already referred to it last week, and we will continue this today, of course. But I think I didn't want to put any depressing things in the card, and maybe we can also find some cat lovers who accidentally come over here, and maybe they like what we are doing. And
Tell you the truth,
well,
I love.
it's of
Yeah.
course,
I think
it's
Amos and
clickbaiting.
I have enough
Uh-oh.
slides for you about.
Uh-oh.
Your audio is very bad at the moment. Sorry to say this. Well, I hope it
Yeah, you guys
recovers.
froze there for a second.
Okay,
Yeah,
we
it's a
froze.
touch and
Okay.
go
Yeah.
for some reason today. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind watching a series of cat videos instead. It would cheer me up.
Honestly, I would rather watch dog videos. I'm more the dogs
I
guy.
agree.
But well, you know, I think it was a
I watched
funny
the
funny
wrecking
idea
ball.
to do
That's
this,
you know.
and yeah. Well, let's have a look at what we really have today. We have, of course, cute kitty cat pics. Yeah, we will talk about the round X between Israel and the Hamas. What's winding down? It's not Israel, the Hamas. There's also the Fatah involved, I guess. But you will give us an update, Amos, later. And we also will talk about. I found some pieces on the net also about this topic. There is one clip coming from Norman Finkelstein. Jimmy Dore referred to him on the show this week as well, and we have some reactions of American Jews, what they think about the conflict. And I found an article from the Center of Strategic and International Studies and how they see the situation. And I think it hits the nail, in my opinion, and we will talk about this as well. Keith also, as I saw, prepared news, interesting stuff around this topic, and so we will have no exact order, and I would like Keith and Amos to interrupt each other, when they feel the time is right to present a slide from what they prepared for today. Well, then we have shortcuts. We will talk a little bit about the largest iceberg, which broke off in the Antarctica, and the consequences from it. Yes, of course, we will have some cartoons in the end. This it's a premiere, I guess, Amos, right? That it's the first time for you that you are choosing a song for our outro, right? And
Yes.
I'm looking forward what you have for us.
Actually, we have two songs, and I hope you guys
two songs. Yeah.
I hope you guys stay with us till the end, because those are really powerful performances that I think everybody will.
Yes. All right. I think we should start. And as I said, a lot of things happened this week around the Israeli-Palestine conflict. And Amos, please give us an update.
All right. Well, as if you've paid attention to the news, there's been a ceasefire. Initially, there was talk of doing a negotiated ceasefire. This thing kind of fell. At the end, what happened was, in practice, both sides launching a ceasefire on their own without an agreement. Israelis were disappointed that some of the kidnapped MIA bodies were not returned as part of this ceasefire. But really, frankly, the Hamas was putting on demands that Israel did not want to fulfill, which were basically tying the Jerusalem issue to ceasefire, and thus giving Hamas authorship over the entire, so to speak, protection of the East Jerusalem, strengthen their political position, and so Israel just urged to do a unilateral ceasefire, and of course Hamas followed suit because of the devastation on their military end. It seems to have quite deep. So I wanted to take a look at it, and from a perspective of casualties, because there's always a discussion of casualties, and we're talking specifically about casualties of Palestinians.
Yes,
not much
I made
discussion.
a slide about this.
Yes. Yeah, I can.
I made a slide about this at some point. We should.
Okay, I would suggest that Amos goes on, and we will follow up to your slide right after this, right?
Sounds good.
Is this the slide you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
These are the
so it's an 18-to-5 ratio.
Right. Again, I don't know. Like,
if you go to the next slide after this. Okay, if you go to the next slide after this, you get the source, and this comes from the New York Times. So, so there it is.
But this is a couple of days old. The
every information on my slide.
Correct.
Yes. Well, people are still dead.
Yeah, people are still dead. I think the numbers on the Palestinian side have risen to 240. Let me
Oh,
put in the slide
it's
here.
terrible to hear.
Don't
I
know
thought there
yet.
was supposed to be a ceasefire.
248. That's according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. But we don't have yet any estimates on the ratio between civilians and combatants. Their claim is that 66 out of this was children,
Or children,
or
yes.
minors. They're different, but I've compared it to previous years in terms of the casualties. Usually, there's no mention of the Israeli casualties, and of course, their numbers are much lower because of the implementation of strict discipline by the public and the Iron Dome, which intercepts 9 out of 10 a number rockets or missiles unless it's overwhelmed, which in this case they were overwhelming the capacity of those anti missile defense system batteries. So the numbers would have been much greater if the Hamas was able to conduct full attack as they intended. But nevertheless, here are the numbers, and you could see clearly that the numbers during wars that were that land invasion was much higher. And thank God that this was averted in this war. Nevertheless, number of casualties, if these numbers are correct, is still pretty high and very regrettable. What is clear is that there has been an attempt to minimize these numbers because it's a hindrance even from the like set aside let aside the ethical and moral aspects of it's a hindrance to the military operation that there are any civilian casualties, because that constricts and puts the pressure to wind down those operations. So there's definitely been attempts to minimize this as much as possible in terms of early warnings and so forth, and where the hits were conducted. And based on the numbers of that were provided so far, and on how many in terms of the military targets, they said that 270 rocket launchers were taken out. In addition to that, 100 kilometers of tunnels were destroyed. That's 60 miles, and so forth. Considering that amount of military devastation, it's surprising that the numbers have not been higher. Perhaps there's some miracle involved, although I'm not a religious person. But certainly, also on the Israeli side, there were situations where it could not be explained logically. People left buses like seconds before they were blown, and so forth. So it's just bizarre. Nevertheless, so we're basically at an end of an operation. The Israeli military has announced that they have achieved their goals in terms of the military goals, and perhaps even if they had a success tactically, there's definitely not a strategic victory here, and questionably the Hamas may have scored some points strategically in terms of strengthening their grip on the Palestinian population. And if their power goes up, it's not going to be towards peace. It's definitely not their goal. Their goal is not coexistence. It's not improving Palestinian conditions. It's the extermination of Israel entirely. So it's hard to see how any agreement could be garnered even with a left government on the Israeli side. I wanted to thought this was important. I basically translated and transcribed this video. This was given to an Israeli audience. This was meant for Israeli ears by the Minister of Defense yesterday, right after the ceasefire has been signed, and this is just really talking to an Israeli public, not being covered here. This is the guy, that's Benny Gantz, if any of you have heard that name. He ran against Netanyahu in the last election as the left bloc centrist person. Is by no means like a left person, but he I think he gets it a little more than Netanyahu is, at least. So I thought here is the clip.
אזרחי ישראל, תם ולא נשלם. השגנו את כל היעדים המבצעיים שהצבנו. גבינו מחיר כבד מאוד מהחמאס. החזרנו את יכולותיו שנים אחורה. בראש ובראשונה השמדנו את יונתת הקרקע, פגענו ביכולות מבצעיות רבות של האויב, חיסלנו מעל 200 פעילי טרור, ביניהם בכירים מאוד. הצלחנו לסכל את תוכניות החמאס לבצע פיגועי חדירה, לשלוח כטב"מים ולפעול מהזירה הימית. תם המעשה הצבאי והגיעה שעת המעשה המדיני. על חורבות בתיהם של בכירי החמאס והריסות של למעלה מ100 קילומטר של מנהרות טרור, חובה עלינו לבנות מציאות אחרת. מעשה מדיני אין משמעו הסכמי בזק, אלא התנעת מהלכים ארוכי טווח שיחלישו את הקיצוניים ויחזקו ויחברו בין המתונים. שוחחתי בימים האחרונים גם עם מנהיגים ממדינות ערב המתונות, כאלו שיש לנו קשרים רשמיים איתן וגם כאלו שלא, ואני אומר לכם שיש לנו הזדמנות לשנות. אסור לפספס, אסור למצמץ, אסור לסגור את הדלת שנפתחה. במבצע החלשנו את החמאס צבאית ופגענו בנכסיו, וכעת הזמן לחזק את הכוחות המתונים שמסביב. להתנות פיתוח ושיקום לא רק בשקט, אלא גם ובעיקר בהתקדמות תהליך השבת השבויים והנעדרים. זהו חוב מוסרי שלנו כמדינה, שאני נושא עימי יום יום, שעה שעה. זאת ועוד, לא רק שקט תמורת שקט, שקט תמורת תקווה, צמיחה ומתינות. אם לא נפעל מדינית, מהר ונכון, שומר החומות יירשם כעוד סבב בדרך למבצע הבא. אין לממשלת ישראל, ראש הממשלה, מנדט להפוך הישג צבאי חסר תקדים לחלילה החמצה מדינית. זוהי מחויבות שלנו לכל אזרחי ישראל, ובפרט לתושבי הדרום שעומדים בחזית כבר שנים. אתם ראויים לשקט בדיוק כמו תושבי ירושלים ותל אביב. וצריך לומר, גם לתושבי עזה כדאי השקט, שיביא איתו תעסוקה הולמת במקום מפעלי רקטות שהושמדו. גם לתושבי עזה יותר נכון השקט לחינוך עבור ילדיהם, במקום הררי השנאה והאיבה שמטפחים מנהיגיהם, שלקחו אותם בשבי של עוני וחוסר תקווה. גם להם טוב שתהיה מערכת בריאות מודרנית, תשתית מים, חשמל וביוב, ובתי חולים שלא ישמשו כערי מקלט לטרוריסטים וכמחסני רקטות. אזרחי ישראל, לאורך המבצע הצבאי התמודדנו במקביל לכל האיומים ממשבר פנימי עמוק. שמנו לו חוסם עורקים מיידי באמצעות שוטרי משטרת ישראל שפעלו במקצועיות ובנחישות בסיוע משמעותי של מג"ב ושירות הביטחון הכללי, הפרקליטות וכולם שנרתמו למשימה הלאומית מול טרור לאומני שהתפשט ברחובותינו. אני מבקש להביע את הערכתי הרבה למפכ"ל המשטרה ולכל אנשיו שפעלו בתנאים מאוד קשים לאורך כל הדרך. אני רוצה לומר לכם שהחברה הישראלית זקוקה לא רק לטיפול נמרץ, אלא לתהליך ריפוי עמוק, להוקעה של גורמים קיצוניים שמלבים את האש בתוכנו, לחיזוק הסולידריות שבתוכנו, לחינוך אחר להכרת השונה ולכבוד הדדי. זו משימה לאומית מהחשובות ביותר הניצבות לפתחנו בעת הזו.
Yeah, so basically the message here was the military goals have been achieved, so to speak, but now the political aspect of starting to get things on the political track has to start. He also had this in the last part. He spoke about the relationship, Arab, Palestinian, Israeli, and Jewish Israeli relationship, and how that has to be enhanced and embedded. And so this is official. This is the Israeli government. So you could see the nuance. Of course, listening to Netanyahu has not mentioned any of those things, but at least here you see an understanding that there needs to be progress on all these other fronts, and particularly. And Melissa, the suggestion here was not that the Hamas would be removed. Of course, there's no way that Israel could do so. The suggestion is that more moderate forces be more supported, and more extreme ones be more put on the back. And that is kind of opposed to Netanyahu's policy so far. And it may surprise you, but the critique in Israel about Netanyahu was that he has supported Hamas more so than the Palestinian Authority. While it was giving hard time to the Palestinian Authority, he's allowed Qatari money transfers to Hamas. The idea that the Hamas would probably feel that there's more to lose if they had the money. That has not panned out. They have used that money to build tunnels and rearm themselves, as opposed to protect their population and to, oops, we lost Keith, and to protect themselves and to give is coming back, and to provide all the requirements, health, education, and so forth. So now he's suggesting that that Hamas should be considered as a like a damaging aspect to the possibility of peace. And for Netanyahu, apparently this existence of Hamas.
Has all the power.
Sorry?
Israel has all the power. You know,
what do you mean?
We just heard there may be some wisdom in it, there may be some bullshit in it, but it's coming from a position of having all the power.
Well, they don't control what happens on the Palestinian street. They elect their own, and they have their own internal politics. But what I wanted, sorry, I couldn't hear. Let me just finish the thought. I had Netanyahu basically has it's in his political advantage that Hamas.
Go on, Amos, please.
That the Hamas continues to exist because that gives him the opportunity to point toward Hamas and say, "See, there's no side, there's no partner on the other side." So this is the complexity of the political situation here, and I just wanted you to guys to understand, because there's so much misunderstanding. There's so much simplification on in regards to the politics of this.
I don't think stealing land is complicated. I think it's real simple.
And what do you refer to in particular?
In particular, the evictions that triggered this whole mess, this whole round in the first place in Jerusalem, and the invasion of the temple.
Yeah, except that it wasn't a government.
The mosque.
Right. Although it wasn't a governmental.
But except there is a chain of events here. Well, you know, that is the actual chain of events.
Well, I don't deny that, but
just saying that it's a terrorist thing, I think really is not doing justice to the people that are suffering in all this.
Yeah, and I don't deny that, and there is an understanding among many Israelis that this was provocation on the side of the right, and the fact that Netanyahu didn't want to stand. He brought with him, in order to build a coalition, in order to save his hide, he brought into the coalition, into his government, far extreme right-wing elements, and these elements are thriving on provocation and have in-your-face politics, and these are the elements that have kind of stoked all of this. It wasn't so much an action, governmental action
and those elements are getting exactly what they want. They are getting American dollars. They are getting American arms in violation of the Simonton Agreement. International law is being violated right now, you know, by the Israeli lobby getting their way, you know, ignoring the rights of Palestinians right and left because they have the power, they have the control, they have America as their servant, and that's my opinion.
Yeah,
I'm looking at other sides, but I started out this week seeing Israeli being very comfortable, you know, with tanks slamming the hell out of some paint factory. And, you know, we just heard a guy talking about the guys in the paint factory being terrorists, whatever. But, you know, from there, next thing you know, oh, now we have peace. Now we have a ceasefire. Once again, it's a ratchet. It's like a spanner being turned. Every click it is pain. And I wish it would stop. I don't see that things are going to change. But, you know.
All right. Okay. Let me tell you what I think about this. Let me first tell you what I think about what the defense minister said there. You know, if you noticed what happened the last couple of days internationally, you know, and you could see, in my opinion, that maybe the table starts to turn, you know, for Israeli government, you know, that they are seeing they don't have the full support anymore from parties they had before, you know, and a couple of days I read that Biden had a telephone call with Netanyahu, in which he demanded the ceasefire, you know, and that he demanded it has to stop now because it's a public relation disaster of what's going on, rightfully or not. You know, I don't want to discuss this right now, but it's a PR disaster for Israel at the moment. You know,
Well, but there,
hold on. Let me finish my thought. And so I think that the defense minister or the government, you know, came to terms to say, okay, we have to publicly declare that we met all our targets in the conflict. You know, that everything is accomplished now. And I don't think so. And Keith is right. This is only another ceasefire in a number of how many. And the question behind is cui bono? You know, who earns from this? You know, there is a clear political winner in this week. This is what I said already last week. It is Benjamin Netanyahu, who is politically standing much more on solid ground than the weeks before, where he was contested, and the corruption trial which is going on, etc. All this doesn't seem to hurt him not much anymore right now. But you know, he sees what's going on in America. He sees that maybe Biden, at least officially, has another approach than he might have before. I don't know what they're discussing in the back rooms, you know, the diplomats, etc. But I think this ceasefire was not made by the decision of Israel, but by the decision of the US, and not at least by the world's reaction. What do you think?
Well, I think that no
I
doubt.
think you're right.
Go ahead.
Okay, I think you're right there. The American media has made a big deal about a personal relationship between Netanyahu and Biden, and so now, for what it's just a good chess play to, you know, lighten up. The military objectives have been achieved. No doubt they would like to do a little bit more, but you know, they got to play a little waiting game before they kick Palestine again, because they have to play this game with Biden, pretending that they're listening to him when actually you dig news. As far as kind of making a thing about a relationship between the two that really doesn't exist. That, you know, it's a nice story, but I don't think it's real.
There's no doubt, in my opinion, that the pressure from the U.S. and Biden has shortened it, but that's always been the case. There's always this kicking in of pressures after a while, and then they have to wrap it up. But with that said, I think Biden's position has been strengthened because he's both presented solidarity with Israel's rights to defend itself. At the same time, he pressured Israel or the government to cut the response. And from the Israeli government's point of view, they will tell you that they don't want to be in a situation where Hamas launches attacks and then cries wolf and everybody has to stop the response. That gives them control over the entire situation. So from their perspective, it is a lose situation when the Hamas is the one that calls in the shots as to when such a ceasefire is put in place.
Yeah. Well, before we go on, I think we should now have some reactions, and I found a video of Americans react to this, American Jews, and let's hear what they have to say. This is slide, yeah, exactly the slide, yes.
Human rights for everyone, and not a situation where you create an apartheid state and make some people, you evict them from their land, you evict them from their homes, and then you charge them when they try to fight back, to resist, to hold on to what is theirs. And it's a totally unconscionable situation. Israel is carrying out war crimes. The United States is totally complicit. You know, there used to be, the world, the international community used to admit that Zionism is racism, and the United States used all its power to overturn that and to make a situation where now criticizing the bloodthirsty country of Israel becomes branded as anti-Semitic. And as a Jew, I totally reject that thinking.
Palestine will be free from the river to the sea.
What we see happening to the Palestinian nation is what has happened and is happening to black people in the United States. We face different forms of ethnic cleansing, different forms of genocide. Our demand is for reparations, which is a generational demand that began with the enslavement of African people and continued through Jim Crow and institutionalized racism in this country. So we've always had a close relationship with the Palestinian struggle. We see that their struggle as our struggle. It's been over $146 billion at the United States that our taxpayer dollars have gone towards the support of Israel, which is an apartheid state, since 1948. So we are opposed to U.S. support for Israel. We think that President Biden needs to take a firm position against what is going on now in Gaza.
We love you, Erdogan. We love Turkey. Us, Palestinian and Turkey, are one, and we're always proud of Mr. Erdogan, and we love him to death. I would give my soul to Erdogan. Erdogan is my hero, and the Turkish people is my love.
I think it's kind of funny to exalt Erdogan, where they were going after the Kurds, trying to do an actual genocide in
exactly, and it works like, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, you know, and it is in parts it's well. I don't think it leads somewhere, you know, if you start to compare the situation of the Palestinians of the Palestinians with what happened to the black slaves, which what happened before to the Jews during the Holocaust, you know. I think complete different stages, not comparable, you know. And I'm sorry.
And the Native Americans too.
Yeah, of Native Americans. Yeah, you know, of course, yeah, and different stages, complete different stories, complete different histories behind it. And the funny thing, this is why I chose this video, was because of the guy at the end, you know, who is praising Erdogan, who is doing the same, as Amos already pointed out, with the Kurds, and who is leading a very strict authoritarian regime in Turkey, which is a travesty of the democracy it once was, you know. And to celebrate such a guy as a hero, as a liberator, it is somehow very strange, you know. And well, and what we are seeing here is everything. It's a question of the perspective those people have, you know. What's their point of view on things, you know. And this is why we are sitting here, you know, and making up our minds, you know, and to wrap it around, what can be done, how can the situation be de-escalated, right? And well, I think it was a quite interesting video, the reactions, and
May I
You also
react to
added
something?
some more, Amos.
No, I just wanted to react to something that was said in there, and that was by that old Jewish lady saying that Zionism was equal racism, which I completely disagree with. I think, like I said, I mentioned before, Zionism is just the longing of Jews to have a homeland and live in the land of their ancestors. And I wouldn't consider Palestinian nationalism in terms of right to self-determination to be racism either. And when you look, and Melissa, I wanted to tell you, there's no desire in the generally in Israel to have Palestinian children hurt. That's kind of a hateful suggestion to make, that people want to hurt Palestinians or kill children, or that they are even Nazis, and that brings to your Finkelstein video. But I reject that equivalence. That
we are coming to this a little bit later.
Yeah, I do reject that equivalence. There's no genocide.
If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck.
Keith, there's no genocide.
I understand you don't like it, but the
No,
fact
it's
is,
not about,
people die, people don't have jobs, people suffer.
and people would like them to have jobs.
That's the issue. There is real suffering.
And people would like them to have jobs in the context of a peaceful coexistence. And certainly there is no ill intent towards Arabs in Israel who enjoy full rights in terms of employment. There's doctors, there's lawyers, there's people at the highest echelons, there's MPs, and they in many ways Palestinian Israelis enjoy more freedoms and equality than a lot of surrounding Arab countries. So to say that this is like ethnic motivated is a little disingenuous. We're talking about well,
I register my dissent. You're welcome to your opinion.
Well, I certainly see that there is a lot of problems with how Palestinians outside of Israel and occupied territories are dealt with, and their opportunities or outlooks, how they're affected by all of this. I agree, but to compare that to Nazism, I think that's a leap. That's a big leap.
Yeah. I think, as I said, there are so many different alone his historic realities behind those cases. I think it would be easy, to calculate it down. It is like Nazism. It is of course it is a kind of apartheid system. This is, in my opinion, is undeniable. And when you say, Amos, that the Arabian people or Palestinian people who are living in Israel enjoying more rights than they would enjoy in most other Arabian countries, I ask myself, but do they have the equal rights than the Israel people have there? And I don't think so.
In what ways?
In political only, how are they represented?
They're represented fully. In fact, Netanyahu lobbied for the Arab political party to build a coalition with them in the last elections. He relied on the biggest Arab political party. They wield a lot of political power, and that's just it's a fact. That's a checkable fact.
Well, as I said, I'm not close enough to the political landscape or what's really going on in Israel. This is why I'm happy that I have you here, because you can answer those questions. And but it is also interesting, to see to see the approaches of others. And you also added some more videos, and maybe we can have a look at them.
But let me just respond to Oz. There's no carpet bombing at present time in Israel, and I guess we'll talk about it a little later when we talk about the sales of weapons as well. But here's something else that when we're talking about is anti-Zionism the same as anti-Semitism, and I would say that clearly there is an element there, and it's inseparable, and sadly it's not given the same weight that Asian hate, for example, is given to. But things are happening in the United States. I'm not sure if you've encountered this, but this is happening right now in response to the events in Gaza.
Governor Cuomo is directing the state police hate crimes task force to help the NYPD with an investigation into an assault apparently involving protesters in Times Square. The NYPD says this video shows a 29-year-old Jewish man being kicked, pepper sprayed, and beaten on the ground in the Diamond District. They also say an anti-Semitic slur was used. The mob then scrambles to avoid officers. A 23-year-old suspect was arrested. Charges are pending. The NYPD says they are looking for as many as 5 other suspects.
Another one from...
You know, I came to Albuquerque thinking I knew that it wasn't, the safest city.
But he didn't know he would be a victim of a violent crime. That UNM freshman was violently attacked this past weekend at a party off campus. And he says it all happened because he's Jewish. And he wonders if it had anything to do with the ongoing violence we're now seeing in the Middle East. So he sat down with our Patrick Hayes.
You know, I'm just going out with my friends, and the next thing I know, I get targeted for just, wearing a shirt that identifies me as being me.
Ronnie Sappenar is a UNM freshman. He's also Jewish and from Israel. He was wearing this shirt last week that says, "Just Jew it."
It was a really funny shirt. A lot of people liked it. It was like my icebreaker, and it's always a fun time, but I guess that night it wasn't.
As you can see from the bruises in these pictures, the fun didn't last long. Sappenar was attacked and suffered multiple injuries.
They checked me, they did CAT scans, and they came to the conclusion that I had internal bleeding, that I'm probably concussed, and they said that my bruising is going to stay for a while, especially on my face. Right now it looks a lot better on the camera, but it was a lot worse from the beginning.
According to this police report, Sappenar was not only attacked by a group of guys, they stole his Apple Watch and Air Max shoes. But it didn't stop there. Sappenar says they yelled anti-Semitic slurs and continued to beat him. That's why he says it's a hate crime.
It was just the fact that it was out of nowhere. There was no interaction before. It was in a pretty public place. Like, there was other people around, and they weren't just trying to take my stuff. There was a feeling behind it of like an alternative motive, especially when you go that brutal when someone's on the ground and you just keep going at him after you've already taken off his shoes and taken their watch. So there had to have been some kind of like anger behind it.
Sappenar says he's talking to us to raise awareness.
I think the biggest reason I want to do this, it's not like I want to be on camera talking about like the pity of what happened to me. Like, I'm really here because I want to portray a message that Albuquerque, anywhere around the world, especially here, since I feel like I haven't met too many Jewish students or Jewish people overall, is that just be proud of who you are. That's what it is. That's why I want to do this, and I want to make sure my message is portrayed.
Patrick Hayes, KOB4.
Albuquerque police say they're working with the DA's office, but it's too soon to determine if this was a hate crime. Now, they do have some leads, but at this point, no arrests have been made.
Last one.
It appears the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in the Middle East may be sparking violence back here at home. At least 2 attacks were caught on camera. And CBS 2's Kara Fincham is live this morning in Beverly Grove with a look at what's happening. Kara, good morning to you.
Good morning, DeMarco. Investigators are now looking for 3 suspects in that attack at the restaurant behind us. We did speak with one woman who was here. She didn't want her name or identity released, but here's what she told us about what happened.
somebody in one of the cars driving by started throwing glass bottles or glass cups at the tables, and they shattered everywhere. A bunch of the cars stopped, and maybe 30 of the men in the cars got out, started running toward the tables and asking indiscriminately who's Jewish.
This woman, who did not want to be identified, says she was at Sushi Fumi in Beverly Grove last night when some diners and a group of people driving by in a large pro-Palestinian protest exchanged words. She expected it to end there. Instead, she says the men attacked the diners, yelling "dirty Jew" and other anti-Semitic slurs. Another man, who said he's a photographer and was dining with clients, said he's not Jewish but tried to intervene and was punched and pepper sprayed.
I was speaking to one guy with him to relax why they're doing that. Just protest peacefully.
The LAPD says they're investigating this as a hate crime with 5 victims who were either punched or injured by broken glass. We've reached out to the organizers of yesterday's pro-Palestine rally. They told us they would never condone such violence. They want to peacefully call for change.
We've organized many protests. Saturday's protests, we had over 20,000 people that showed up, and not one single incident.
We can talk about it. We have free speech here in the United States where we can have intellectual discourse with one another, and last night was not that. It was a bunch of thugs looking for a fight, trying to see if they could single out and target Jews for their Judaism.
At the same time, the LAPD is looking at security camera video of another incident. It shows an Orthodox Jewish man being chased by a caravan of people waving Palestinian flags. This took place near La Brea and Rosewood. The man got away and is okay. The video was recorded by an outdoor parking lot camera in the Fairfax district. We spoke with one Jewish man worried about the escalating tensions.
All these microaggressions that people have towards Jewish people or towards Muslim Palestinians, it's just incredibly hurtful.
And we did reach out to the LAPD for more information about that video from the Fairfax district of Marco. We're waiting to hear back.
So, Cara, before you go, what do we know about the suspects that police are looking for in the incident at the Beverly Grove?
From there, but so basically, I don't think you can separate the two, unfortunately. And those people were going after Jews. They were going, in some places, they were going to diners at restaurants and asking them if they were Jewish. And when they answered, unaware of what was going on, that they were being beaten. So we're not even talking about targeting Israelis, and not to mention that targeting Israelis indiscriminately would be just as, like, also not right. But clearly there's an element there, and to ignore it, it's is wrong. You can't ignore it.
I don't want to belittle the cases we just saw, but you gotta remember what went on after 9/11, At that time, after this, people who were looking Arabic, or from the Middle East, were hunted by other people, for no reasons. We saw the same thing not long ago, when the coronavirus showed up. When Asian people were beaten and hunted, and I don't want to. I don't. As I said. As I said, I don't want to belittle it. But I would not over dramatize them. It is a question. Was it really pure anti-Jewish sentiments, or is it because of the situation? Because the world is raging, people are protesting, etc.
But they're attacking Jews. What's their connection?
Yes,
to
and before they attacked Asians or Arabic looking people. And the question, this is the question.
Any attack on someone because of who they are is wrong.
Of course, I said it. I don't want to belittle it.
But who you have to know who did it. It's important to know who did it, and we don't. All we saw was a flag on a truck.
Oh, so you're suggesting that it was staged?
And yes,
I do not think that this was staged.
I don't think it was staged. Because but you got to see. You got to see.
Where do you get 30 people without anybody knowing it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
30 people. Where did they come from? We don't, with no leaders. Who are the leaders?
There's
we
thugs.
Have no names.
You can come on, Keith. You can organize this on WhatsApp or on other social media stuff. This is not the problem, but this is not the question. The question is,
yeah, but
is it a mob? Is it a mob who showed up, after something dramatic happened, like 9/11, like the coronavirus, like now the Israel-Palestine conflict? Are the people targeted because it is actual news, or
no?
Of course,
it was. Marcus, of course it was related to the current events, but to use that as an excuse to beat up Jews is just immature.
It is no excuse, Amos. Don't get me wrong. It is not tolerable, that people are being attacked for those reasons, But I think we got to look very carefully at it, and see what is really going on. Is it only, in quotation marks, only the mob who is reacting to a political incident? What's going on there?
I don't see what else it could be, but and to answer Melissa, this really is like, to me, the issue is what the surrounding environment does, not that there are some extremist or violent people that will do that, and the same with these extremist right wingers in Israel that go in and provocate in these in East Jerusalem and stuff. The question is there an answer by authority or by the surrounding forces that denounce them, or is there silence? And in the case of Netanyahu's government, there's been a lot of silence, and that is part of the issue. In this case, there should not be silence. It's a clear ethnical or religious hatred, and there's no place for it anywhere. And you can imagine that old Jewish lady that you heard speaking earlier being one of the diners in this restaurant and being beaten up.
Yeah.
What's their connection to that?
Well, I think we should.
I say again, we identify the people. You got to be very suspicious as to what's going on and just withhold your judgment. I don't think it's paranoid to call. I'm not saying it's a false flag, but we don't know who did it. All we see are a truck. So where were the police? Why weren't there blue lights behind there? It was downtown in LA.
The police were in some of these incidents. They were in the New York incident.
Anywhere in LA without. Oh, so they don't have police in New York? Excuse me, but the whole thing just looks funny to me. And it's not a matter. Like I said, I'll tell you, it's not a matter. It's a matter of evidence in my mind. When there are no names and you can't identify who the perpetrators are.
So who would be the perpetrators, Keith? Who would be the perpetrators? Who would be the perpetrators in your opinion?
Well, the ones driving the truck, the ones chasing the man, the ones beating the poor boy senseless. Those are perpetrators. They're breaking the law. Who would they be? Who are they?
Who do you suggest they could be?
You tell me. We don't know. That's my point. We don't know. And without knowing, who can we hate? Who can we blame? We can't make any conclusions from what we've seen.
Would you say the same if that was
ugly and horrible?
Would you say the same if it was a black person beaten on the street?
Yes.
I doubt.
I would say the same if there's no name, there's no affiliation between, it's like who's in. We have never, in an entire year of so-called Antifa, ever been shown somebody who's an actual member. There was a guy who got shot to death in, not too far away from me, who, hey, I'm 100% Antifa, and he got shot by Trump's, guys. But the thing is, you know, the media is polarizing things here. And what's the motivation in putting this stuff out? What's
Keith, the media is barely touching it. The media
I want to question.
The media here is barely touching it. I had to look to search for these clips. It's not out there. It's kind of under the radar, and it's sad, and it saddens me that you're like making a distinction between a situation like this and other hate crimes.
Well, you know, it doesn't matter who it was. It was a victim, whether he be black, Jewish, Palestinian, me or you. It is a victim. All victims are equal in my mind.
We couldn't say that. Could you repeat? We couldn't. You broke up.
Think that I am as or color or anything else, but I see a victim. I want to know who the perpetrator is, and just seeing random people doesn't do it for me.
Well, I'd like to see them brought to justice too.
I want to know who the perpetrator is. Well, who are they? You know, that's my point. We it's hard to, you can't really make it. It's horrible, but we don't know. Even the news said these are alleged hate crimes. You know, when the news says alleged or probable, you got to ask yourself: are they making something out of nothing for some nefarious purpose, or are they actually trying to inform us? And so I'm critical. I admit it. I want names. I want places. When I see something like this, there are. I was never a journalism student, but there's some expression about who, what, where, when, why, and like who. We don't know who. We do know where. We don't know why, and we're not even sure. Well, we do know what. Somebody was beaten senseless.
Wow. We cannot.
But there's a lot of unknowns.
We cannot clarify what in how far the videos are authentic. I don't have, in my opinion, personally, I don't have no reason to doubt this because we're seeing similar stuff going on in Germany where Jewish people are getting attacked. This is documented, and I only can speak here in this case for my country, for Germany. We know this that this happens. We know that people are on the street and shouting death to Israel, death to the Jews, and all of this is happening, you know. And well, I think we should go over to the next video, which I found it was on Jimmy Dore's show this week, and I found it remarkable. And I want to play this clip before and then get into a discussion with Amos and Keith about it.
Go ahead.
Hi. During your speech, you made a lot of references to Jewish people as well as certain people in your audience, not Jewish people in general, but certain people, especially in your audience, to Nazis. Now, that is extremely offensive when certain people are German, and they're also extremely offensive to people who've actually suffered under Nazi rule.
I don't respect that anymore. I really don't. I don't like and I don't respect the crocodile tears to the crocodile tears. No, I'm sorry, folks. Allow me to finish, and allow me to finish. Listen, sir. Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Sir. I don't like to play before an audience the Holocaust card. But since now I feel compelled to. My late father was in Auschwitz. My late mother, please shut up. My late father was in Auschwitz. My late mother was in Majdanek concentration camp. Every single member of my family on my father's side The Jews did not take arms against the Germans. My late father was in Auschwitz concentration camp. My late mother was in Majdanek concentration camp. Every single member of my family on both sides was exterminated. Both of my parents were in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And it's precisely and exactly because of the lessons my parents taught me and my two siblings that I will not be silent when Israel commits its crimes against the Palestinians. And I consider nothing more despicable than to use their suffering and their martyrdom to try to justify the torture, the brutalization, the demolition of homes that Israel daily commits against the Palestinians. So I refuse any longer to be intimidated or browbeaten by the tears. If you had any heart in you, you would be crying for the Palestinians, not for what's been done.
What? Could I just calm the audience down?
I'd say Karen got an earful.
I've never been in a crowd like this. They're nuts.
Yeah. Well, for me, as a German, it is a very difficult topic. When you hear about what happened to the family of Dr. Finkelstein, that he lost the family from both sides, his mother's and his father's side, and everyone was killed under the German Nazi regime. Well, I'm trying to set myself into a role of someone who survived this, and honestly, I don't know how I would react. If I would have survived this and would have had the opportunity to flee and go somewhere else. I don't know how I would react if I would ever talk to a German or shake a German's hand, etc. I don't know. But I think it is very remarkable that Finkelstein is trying to separate his view from what he experienced and tries for himself to see things as there are in his opinion. And I directly want to go over to Amos with the question. The question is the following. Is it true that the Holocaust, the anti-Semitism card, is a card which is played to avoid that someone is seen not anymore as a victim, but as a prosecutor, as a wrongdoer?
I don't think so. I don't think that that Jews or Israelis see any connection between having been a victim of the Holocaust with not being able to do wrong, and there's big debates about each and every one of the policies and whatever is happening in Palestine. There's people obviously on all sides of the matter, and there's just simply no connection. I see Finkelstein mainly as a provocateur. I don't like him in particular. I think he's trying to jab people where it hurts most, and there's no reason to do that in order to advocate for Palestinian rights and rights of self-determination and so forth. There's really no need to try and hurt survivors of the Holocaust or their grandchildren. I myself am vast part of my family has been exterminated during the Holocaust, and these are painful things. If he thinks that it's beneficial or advantageous to poke at that in order to get Jews or Israelis to understand the need for Palestinian rights, I think he's mistaken. If anything, it's the opposite. We lost Keith again.
Okay, I see. Well, I see
I'm
that.
back.
Yes, Jilly Love here in chat. Hey, Jilly. She says that apartheid was ended by boycotts and divestment. We know how. Interesting fact is that Dr. Norman Finkelstein is a strong opponent of the BDS because he said it is leading nowhere and only strengthen anti-Semitic sentiments, and the group behind it is from what he says also obscure, to say it like this, and
Yeah.
just as I saw this in chat.
I mean, he's a provocateur. He enjoys being controversial. He enjoys being
Yes, but you gotta give him credit. He chose. He didn't choose the easiest way for his professional life, at least.
I would say the
he was.
opposite.
He was.
It propelled him to
was-
notoriety. He wouldn't have.
He was blocked and banned by several universities, and until Noam Chomsky sided with him and gave him opportunities to get a professional job. There was he was blocked everywhere. So he knows how it is, to get his beatings, and I think in the same way he knows also to beat, and what I disliked about his statement was that he is putting Israel very near to Nazis, and well, this is exactly what I said before, different stories, different histories, different backgrounds, and this is, in my opinion, this is not a valid argument, and I think there he goes over the top, though I can understand where he's coming from, and this is the question I raised for a long time, that the Holocaust, what happened in Germany, in Europe, I think this causes damage in if you want it in a national soul, and I think, and this is the other terrible heritage Germany burdens up on the Jewish people, is that they now, because they cannot allow that this happens again, that they are in a kind of in a kind of very, very authoritarian and strict way, and I gotta formulate it very carefully, you see, but that we gave that Germany gave a bad heritage, which mirrors in the behavior of the Israel government, and for decades, if you want so, it's if you want so, in 48 it started, and you remember the last which looked promising peace attempt was when Yasser Arafat was still alive, and there also was Benjamin Netanyahu already in the game, and at that time it was Clinton the president, and it was about the Oslo two-state solution, which never came into life, of course, and well, it's it's such a
well, but
it's such
Arafat, the tragedy with Arafat is that he backpedaled, and they almost had an agreement, and he backpedaled from that. They would have gotten a huge land concession, and we probably would have been in a different place now.
Yeah, there was so many chances in history, if you want. So, you go back to the 19th century, when there was offers made, and even the Arabic rulers at that time were fine, with having Israel settled there, and everything was destroyed in this case, I think, by the English or the French, who opposed against this plan for political reasons. And this is the thought where I want to come to. What we are seeing here is a chessboard, in Israel, in Palestine. It's a chessboard, and there are so many other powers who are making their profit out of the situation. The question is, where are the rockets coming from? We know that the rockets Israel is using are coming from the US, but who is delivering the rockets, the missiles to Palestine, right?
And we know who's making mostly Iran.
And this is exactly, there are too many parties in it who get their profit from it, and all this mixed with politics, with history, with religion. Damn. Well, we are back at the situation we have been 1 week ago, at least I am.
Again, Jilly, I wish you were able to understand Hebrew media and look at the discussions in Israel and all of that, and just so you understand, you have a very flat understanding, unfortunately, of Israel as a supremacist, Arab-hating, murderous country, and it's just not true. They're basically a country that has the same flaws and same good parts as other countries. It's a pluralistic society. It's a society
I want to say something about this.
Absolutely.
It might sound a little off topic, but I just want to make a point with it. And that is the nicest people I've met in my life have been very rich. So just think about that. And who's got the power here?
Yeah. Yeah, they can afford to be nice.
Exactly.
Would you suggest that it would be better to have the same actions and attitudes only from a position of weakness? Do you think that there would be an equivalent?
That would be ridiculous, and I wouldn't advocate that for a second. However, amongst intellectual people, self-examination is something we're supposed to prize. And I think Dr. Finkelstein was totally appropriate at going after that Karen, and she got the earful that she deserved. And that's what I think about it.
Well, he uses a very painful part of history for just to get a rise.
Well, death is painful. People are suffering.
Well, I think it's very insensitive and immature. There's ways to address people suffering on different levels, in invoking like somebody's past history of being a murder victim is not. It's not appropriate.
No. All right, guys.
I don't agree.
I saw
we can disagree on this.
Apparently, Jilly mentioned something about a map. I don't know what she was talking about. I'd be happy to discuss anything if we have time, and it's up to you really. But I'm happy to address anything. So I'm just not sure what she was talking about. A map.
Right. I'm not sure neither. I think we should.
Julie? What map? What are you talking about?
And please, Jilly, be nice. Yes, it's no reason to come up like this. All right. Meanwhile, while we are waiting for the map, I found an interesting article coming from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and it was written by Anthony H. Kortzman. And it was quite interesting. He because he comes to resume. It's a very long article. I only have some parts extracted from it. I want to read it out. He says, the end result is a situation where there now are at least 3 equivalents of failed states in the practical sense, and to some extent 5. Each is a major source of division and tension that seem likely to block any lasting functional settlement between Israeli Jews and the Palestinians indefinitely into the future. So here we go. The first state, in quotation marks, he refers to is Israel, and its failure to both give the Palestinians the equity and aid that could bring stability and compromise on some equivalent of a two-state solution. Israeli politics have declined from an effective democracy to something beginning to approach a chaos crazy focused more and more on opportunistic annexations and chosen security forces and the use of force over the peace process. So there's also Israel in this thing in the question, who fails to bring any stability in the system. We go over it very quickly. The second state, in quotation marks, is the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. So here we got to know that we seems to do that we don't have obviously one Palestine. We have at least 2 Palestines. We have the Palestines in the Gaza Strip, and we have the Palestines in the West Bank, which is also, as we will see, a different story. The second state, he says, is the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, which proved equally unwilling to compromise, tried to use violence when it had little chances of success, and failed to provide the leadership and governance its people need. While the Palestinian Authority and Fatah have many competent and honest officials and voices, far too much of this leadership is weak, aging, corrupt, and incompetent. It no longer moves forward with any authority, and it cannot reach a very young and often unemployment population under 30. This is another fact. This is for the West Bank, that their political representatives they are lacking their voters. They are not reaching them anymore. The third state is Gaza. It's the Hamas in Gaza, which has relied on increasing levels of violence that inevitably provoked an Israeli reaction in kind, and one where Hamas' use of civilian and urban areas to base its operations and its creation of a massive mix of tunnels and underground facilities or metro inside Gaza, as well as across the border with Israel-made civilians in a densely populated and highly urbanized Gaza, more and more of a target. So this is Hamas, who is in their part in the Gaza Strip is acting on its own, and seems to be more violent than Fatah in the West Bank, due to his analysis. The fourth state is formed by a mix of Palestinian citizens living in Israel and outside of the West Bank and Gaza. While they are divided and only beginning to emerge as an effective political bloc or identity, they are reacting to the facts that they face serious discrimination and exit as a separate class within an increasingly Jewish state and have uncertain status and rights. This is my question I had before asking Amos. The fifth state is the uncertain role of religion in Jerusalem, along with Bethlehem and some other shrines, mosques, and synagogues. Religion is not a state or a cohesive political movement, but it increasingly divides Israeli Jews and Palestinians along religious lines. the violence and demonstration over the right to the Al-Aqsa Mosque or Temple Mount complexes, efforts to push Palestinians out of East Jerusalem and the city suburbs, and the debate over making some parts of Jerusalem a Palestinian capital, especially in the Old City, have all been critical and consistent barrier to any lasting settlement. You know, if you got these 5 points, you know, try to get these 5 states, try to get this under control, try to get something out of it which works together, which fits together. I think it's unbelievably complicated. And the question I would like to ask Keith and Amos is, do you think that a 2-state solution is a solution anymore at all?
Keith?
That's beyond my pay grade to say if it's a good or bad solution. You know, if I were living there, where I be Palestinian or I be Israeli, I would want to know that I can go where I want to go, work a job, live a life, see my friends, and not have to worry about being blown up by somebody who doesn't like me for something that happened hundreds of years ago, or maybe it happened only 70 years ago. Regardless, you know, every day is a new day. And you know, that was interesting what you read there, Marcus. I like that. But while you're reading it, I was wondering, you know, the Jewish people are just as diverse as the Palestinians that you were reading about. And then you can even look further, that we're all, you know, mixed up, and we're a big mix of many different peoples and many different cultures and attitudes and everything. And if we could figure out how to solve the Palestinian problem, we wouldn't have any more problems to solve, because if we got that good, we could solve anything.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
you know, from that point of view, I wouldn't get overly discouraged that we haven't found a solution yet. It is a hard one, but I don't know that I really want to make it something different from, you know, in a class by itself, which kind of seems to be playing into some agendas, you know, like it's a problem that never goes away, and we kind of get used to it.
Yeah, I reject that. I reject that as well, and I reject the solution that the destruction of Israel is a necessity for something for like a peaceful existence to come about. I'm still hopeful. I don't know if that's a 2-state solution necessarily is the path to that. Like I discussed with you earlier, I think that that it's more like as counterintuitive as it is. I think federation or co-federation of Palestinian and Israeli state would make more sense, because their well-being would be tied together. But that's my own perspective. I think I understand where Jilly and Oz what they were referring to, and so here's the map that we're talking about. That was the.
Oh yeah, that one came from the New York Times.
That's you added that, Keith?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, you can see the lighter areas, both where it says West Bank. And then on the very lower edge where it's covered almost with the red mark, so you can hardly see it, but there is a little stripe called that's the Gaza Stripe, or Gaza. These two territories were outside of the areas that were provided to Israel by the UN in 1948. And this is the disputed that is the disputed area. Since then, there've been wars where Israel has occupied parts of Sinai. They occupied the Sinai. They occupied the Golan. Those things were taken care of and returned. What we have here is mainly the issue of the occupied territories, as they're called, the West Bank and Gaza. It is an independent entity in a way. What's happening? The West Bank is currently less than a state. It's an autonomy. So there's still some interaction with Israel in that regard. Gaza has been like unilaterally pulled out of by Israel many years ago, and shortly after that, Hamas has kicked the Palestinian Authority or the Fatah party out of there, and have been there's not been elections since. They've been ruling Gaza and using it as a launch pad for attacks, rocket attacks into Israel, into civilian areas and towns around the southern border, and in further and further out now. With more advanced missiles, and none of it has been annexed. What the issue is, and there's a big battle about it in Israeli politics, is that some of the right would like to annex certain sections, certain cutouts of land inside of the West Bank. As semi-Israeli territories, and that is something I strongly oppose to, and probably the majority of Israelis do not agree with. But that has been something that Netanyahu has been trying to push, and that's a huge problem. But certainly there hasn't been. It's either from on the part of settlers who were like right-wing settlers who were forcefully entering these areas and creating settlements in the West Bank, in the territories of the West Bank, and being protected by Israeli military. Certainly, that's very problematic from the point of view of Israel, but it's not annexed in a regular way of looking at it. It has not done land grabs besides that issue, and though that I admit is a very problematic aspect. Those are the facts. I mean, you can do with them what you want, but that's the honest to God fact about the situation. So I hope I answered. Did I answer you, Jillian and Oz?
I think they're referring to a different card. They are referring
Yes.
to the development starting in 1946, going over to the UN partition plan. And then what's happened till 1949 to 2000, and there you could see, when you see the UN partition plan in 1947, you can see at least two accesses of the Palestinians to the sea. One is a panhandle, which connects the Gaza Strip with Jerusalem, and one is up in the north, also connected with a little strip. And if you look, from a strategic thinking, excluding someone from access to sea, it is already a vital element which you need, and if you go on, and I think even if we can talk about annexations of land, etc. The fact is, that what was formerly decided to be Palestinian territory shrunk drastically until at least to the year 2000, which is shown here.
I think this is the map I was referring to. What was officially announced was the second right from the second map from the right. That was the UN declaration that was their
Exactly,
division.
exactly. And there you can see two accesses to the sea, you know, and it changed in 1949, where those accesses are not given anymore, not for the West Bank anymore. Only the Gaza Strip has access, but it's not anymore connected to what we call now the West Bank.
No, I don't know where the second map from the left comes from. It certainly was not what the UN has specified in terms of Israel. I'd have to study this more, where this is coming from, but that's not the second from the right was the map that ended up being defining Israel's territory. And since then, of course, there were wars where these territories were occupied, both the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. That's the bane of problem right now.
I don't know. I don't know the source. I don't know Catholics for Israel. I don't know them. But you know, it came into my mind because you got to know a little side story. I'm a very passionate civilization player, and you know, when I see such a card, you know, and I have an opponent there, I know exactly what to do, and I know where to cut him. You know, and the first thing I do is I cut him off the sea.
Well, yeah, except that was pretty much the strategy when Israel was declared the Israel dependence was declared by the UN. The first thing that the surrounding Arab countries attempted to do is cut Israel from the West Bank to the coast. Is a strip of 15 kilometers. That's not a lot. I don't know how much it's in miles, but it's even less in miles. And that's the only thing that separated between. They have done that, they would have probably destroyed destroyed Israel, and that has not happened. But that exactly, like you said, that was the strategy to try and beat Israel by cutting, and that's why Israel has considered the West Bank to be a strategic territory after that, because it was such a source of danger for the existence of Israel at the War of Independence.
Yeah. All right, guys. Let me see where we are.
You know, things have changed, though.
Guys.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I was just, you know, with that last map, I was just going to comment that, you know,
Yes.
back in 48, in the 60s, you know, Israel had a very external enemies, you know, even Saudi Arabia, say. But in the modern times, what we're looking at now, in my feeling, you know, is that it's more of a domestic issue, that, you know, the Palestinians are an internal thing. You know, you can call them an external state, whatever. But my point is that the larger Arab community, you know, there's still issues. Iran still hates them and so on. But the idea that all the countries are trying to push them into a sea, I think, is a little dated. And we, you know, without being foolish, we should probably update our thinking.
But this is still the objective of
that's
Hamas, though. The objective of Hamas is to raise the state of Israel to the ground.
Well, you know, that they're one group. Like Marcus pointed out, there are many groups at play here.
Keith, you're right. They're one group, but they control the Gaza Strip, and
the Gaza Strip.
They're holding their population hostage with their extreme point of view, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we're looking at here is as I was looking through the news stories and so on and Googling, I came up with this map of Israel, and you know, it's a wooden map you can buy from. This place really exists. This is no joke. You can go to jesusboat.com. Yes, you can go to jesusboat.com, and you can buy this very map. It's slowed down because of COVID, and yeah, and and you know, I sort of made this as a political cartoon, but since I'm talking about it, my point behind it is that to most Americans, this is, the bubblegum mental image of Bible study, Palestine, Jews, Jesus, and it's Israeli. So, and it's very easy for Americans to kind of forget that there are a lot of different people there and just not one kind. So that was my point in making that.
Yeah. Well, guys, it is already pretty late. We got so much things here. I think we should skip the rest for next week because the iceberg is not melting away in 1 week. I can guarantee you this. What do you guys think?
And Kashama Sawant will still be a member of the Seattle City Council and still being voted, there will still be a recall, so we can save her for next week.
Yeah. All right.
What about?
So, what do you think?
We have some cartoons. You want to go through those?
Yes. We should go to the political cartoons and save the rest for next week, and then we have also the outro songs, right?
Yep. And those are something else. So stay with us. So this is Israel and Palestine, the cycle of revenge on the Mobius band, which is the unending symbol of infinity or the unending cycle.
Before I forget
it's a Mobius
this.
strip.
Yes.
It's a Mobius strip. It's only got one side.
Yes, correct. And you if you keep going around it, you keep coming back to the same spot.
Yeah.
Both sides.
And before we forget this, we were so heavily involved in the discussion. We got to thank Density McCartney for the $20 he spent on a super chat. Thank you very much, Density.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's go. Where are we?
Landlord dispute in Jerusalem that went wrong, I believe.
Yeah.
And taken full advantage of by all sides.
Yeah. The two-state solution. I got evicted. Yeah.
This is how Israelis would see. Israel is overacting while they shoot the rockets. A lot of these are actually missiles, not rockets. They're far deadlier. The ones that are further with a bigger span. So another one of how Israel.
Yeah. This is the expression I have. That. The Israeli government was ordered to stop it right now.
Yeah. How?
What next?
What next?
Palestinians would see the pawn.
Yeah, the chessboard. Exactly.
Took your square. Take it back.
Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah, and this is also the other aspect, which makes it without so easy to take party. If you look, the symbolism, the young generation, fighting with stones and stuff, and on the other hand, you got the huge military on the other side. Also, this, only the pictures and photos make it easy to take a party, right?
Yeah, but still, there's I don't think rockets and missiles are stones.
No, but you know what I'm talking about. When you're seeing the conflict zones, when there's military arriving and the kids are on the street and throwing stones at them, this, and they open fire at them.
That's more Intifada.
It's complicated.
Yeah, that was more during Intifada, but
yeah.
There's more.
But at the end of the day, people are dying. Don't forget that.
Yeah. It's always the same. Yeah. Unfortunately.
3 elephants.
Yeah.
examining
They
the genuine
decided now that that they don't want to agree even into a bipartisan investigation in what everyone was seeing live on January the 6th.
Yep.
Come on.
That's
Yeah,
great.
this is nice. This is nice. Yeah. Let's all claim we are set up by Borat.
Very nice.
Yeah.
There's Matt Gaetz and all the others. Yeah, this is the explanation for hang Mike Pence. Why investigate? They're referring to the former Veep's portrait.
Exactly. Isn't that clear? Like,
what did you think?
Yeah, GOP taking aim at the magnifying glass, examining the January 6th.
Yeah. Yeah, an elephant never remembers.
Yeah, we had a similar situation in Seattle last summer where we had the city hall taken over. And
all right,
you're pulling up that cartoon, and if we had the time, that would have segued into the Kashama Sawant episode or segment I wanted to show.
Okay, I hope it's okay for you when you do this next week. All right, okay.
Oh yeah, it will be. Sure.
Cool.
Guys,
we are just looking for the gift shop.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, this whole thing, and it's absurd and funny, but except it's giving me like real nausea, because I feel that we're heading towards fascism, where this kind of denial of truth and like posting, like saying black is white and white is black is going to be the norm. Like the main party, like one of the two only parties in the United States embrace that kind of approach, and that's deeply and worrisome.
Yeah, tastes like chicken. And look, Trump is looking quite
like that one.
He's looking quite juvenile. He's looking. He has a healthy face expression, if you want so, right? He was looking 30, 40 years younger.
Well, if his age would be projected by his behavior, he probably would be a toddler. But
maybe he must eat more of those little GOP elephants, to get into this condition.
What is that called? What is that thing called with the hormones that they have to eat the young?
Steroids?
No, there's this whole thing with a conspiracy that the Democrats were eating young babies or whatever to get some.
Oh, yes. It wasn't true.
Yep.
Liz Cheney was holding us back. Oh, yeah. I like this one. As I was saying, the US power grid may be vulnerable.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is so typically German, if you look into the car, all the toilet paper in it. This is what we experienced in the first wave of the pandemic, when in supermarkets, everything was sold out. There was no toilet paper anymore available. And we had a good
wearing a mask.
we had a good laugh at it, because when from other countries came in the news what the people were shopping before it was locked down, it was in France. They bought wine like crazy, and in the Netherlands they bought weed, but in Germany they bought toilet paper. So nobody can explain this to me. Maybe we're a strange nation.
There's another version that's an American version. But now we have to worry about driving anywhere thanks to orders. And he opens the closet and says, luckily, we still have 700 rolls of toilet paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody having tough time adjusting to working.
Back to business. We oppose wearing masks on Capitol Hill, except during insurrections so we can conceal our identity.
Right.
I doubt it works.
Was holding out for better incentives to get the vaccine, and here we have a lot of places are giving out concert tickets, all kinds of stuff, free beer, all kinds of stuff to get people in because they have slowed down the stream of vaccine. And I don't know if you've heard, this is very worrisome to me, although it's anecdotal at this point, but there is definite news of 18 people at old age home in Israel who were all vaccinated and now got a strain of COVID. Potentially the Indian, they're examining which strain it is, but they certainly got sick in spite of having been vaccinated, and potentially that's either a problem, either an indication that there's strains that are evading this, or an indication that the period of time that you're immune is shorter than people thought. And of course, Israel got the first round, earliest round of vaccination, so that may be bad news indeed.
It could have been a bad batch of vaccine too.
In theory, it could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Not only are foreigners taking our jobs, the jobs Americans want to do, they're taking the vaccines we want to take.
And look on the screen, you know, they're looking pretty French, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, weapon of mass destruction.
And this is specifically in regards to Florida, where DeSantis has ruled that. That was Texas. The governor of Texas has that they cannot, a place cannot insist on mask wearing, even they have that as.
You know, it's kind of funny now. Seattle's gotten used to wearing masks. Everybody wears a mask and thinks nothing of it, except for a few holdouts.
Yeah, but yeah,
Gosh,
I think
really
in
aren't
New
that many.
Jersey as well, pretty much.
So, yeah, and the Olympic Games are coming near, right? And we got crazy sports, variant vaccine hurdles, synchronized aerosolization.
I want to do that one.
What?
I want to do that one.
Okay, do it.
No, the synchronized aerosolization. I want to participate in that.
Okay. All right. And the super spreadathon, of course.
And Mary Poppins sang a song about that, high up in the atmosphere, where the air is clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the Green New Deal, you know. The old deal was be a national embarrassment. The Green New Deal is be a national abusive, threatening embarrassment.
There we go.
Yeah. And the last one.
Yeah, I threw that one in there. Just
I like this one.
my feeling.
And that brings us to the end, and actually it's quite thematic, because I chose this as the one of the parting songs. We have two by a choir called the Rana Choir, which is a female Israeli choir composed of Palestinian Israelis and Jewish Israelis, Christian, Muslim, and Jewish. And they sing together. They chose in this particular case a song called Chad Gadya, which is a traditional Jewish song sung for the Passover holiday. and it's a fable of the father who brings sheep or a lamb. They bring a lamb home, and the cat eats the lamb, and the dog eats the cat, and the stick hits the dog, and a fire burns the stick, and the water extinguishes the fire, and so on and on and on until it gets to the angel of death, and God taking the angel of death away. And it's a wonderful rendition that has been done by a singer called Hava Alberstein. Initially, she said it to a little bit of a different tune, and it's kind of an allegory for the senseless cycle of violence and destruction, and the fact that it really doesn't matter what happens on all along the path, because eventually it's all in heaven's hands. So it's very powerful song. I hope you enjoy it. And following that is a song that they wrote regarding a mother's perspective from both the Jewish and Arab side. That's pretty much it. I hope you.
Right. Well, I hope you enjoyed our heated discussion in parts, and well, it was a one-topic show, no cats, unfortunately, no kitty cats, and
we lured you with a false.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Keith. Thank you, Amos. It was fun, though it was a serious topic. And well, I hope to see you guys next week with me, and hope to see you guys in chat again. And yeah, enjoy our Arabic Hebrew songs.
Yeah, let's hope we have another week of peace.
Yes, of course. Yeah, a peaceful week for all of us. All right.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Then בכל הלילות שאלתי רק 4 קושיות. הלילה הזה יש לי עוד שאלה, עד מתי יימשך מעגל האימה? השתנה לך, מה השתנה? אני השתניתי לי השנה. הייתי פעם כבש וגדיש שלב, היום אני נמר וזאב טורף. הייתי כבר יונה והייתי צבי, היום איני יודעת מי אני. וזרבי נבא בתרי זוזי, חד גדיה, ארונה ז'בי בירשן. ושוב מתחילים מההתחלה.
Appropriate song.
לא גידלתי את בני להיות חייל, את בני גידלתי בן אדם להיות. מי העז להניח רובה על כתפו, כדי בבנה יקירה של אחרת לראות. מה רבייתו ibni liyakuna jundiyan, רבייתו ibni liyakuna insan. من يجرؤ ليعطيه بندقية ليقتل فيها ابنا غاليا. I didn't raise my boy to be a soldier, I brought him up to be my pride and joy. Who dares to place a rifle on his shoulder to shoot some other mother's darling boy? It's time to let the sword and gone away. די לאימה, יקפי הרהב, די לזוועה, יקפי עذاب. قولوا لا تحملوا سلاح, دبروا لا تحملوا سلاح. قولوا لا تحملوا سلاح. לא היו מלחמות כבר עתה, לו כל אם זעקה בשפתה. لا كل منا نات بكل اللغات. There'd be no war today if mothers all would say, ما ربيت ابني. I didn't raise my boy to be a soldier, I didn't raise my boy. לא גידלתי את בני להיות חייל,